we're excited about you being part of this. My name is Lynette Jerry. I'm part of the ICX Secretariat, and I will be your moderator for the day in what promises to be one of the most thought-provoking and practical conversations that we're going to have. We would love to know where you're joining us from. Please do let us know your organization, where you are in terms of your location, and you could maybe add an emoji about how you're feeling this afternoon so that we can check in on you as well. We love to interact with you. I see you, Ruth Sarem, saying that you're happy to be here. Let's see who else is in the room and where you're joining us from so that we can acknowledge you. Thank you, Gideon Mwangi Masharia from KCB Group here in Nairobi. We're excited to have you here. Asha Mukhtar from KWS. Great to see you, Asha. Asante for joining us. Let's see who else is here. I'm assuming Asha is in Nairobi as well. Right. Yeah, please put it on the chat where you're joining us from, and we'll be able to acknowledge you. We see you, Shamim Kenyanjui from NCBA Mombasa. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope it's not as cold in Mombasa as it is here in Nairobi. So thank you. Keep them streaming in. We do really appreciate having you here. And you're in the right place. Today we are going to be looking at how to untangle CX leadership and how to collaborate more and to have more impact for customer experience. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker for the day so that we don't take much time. Ian Golding, I am sure you have seen him in CX circles, and you are waiting to hear from him. He is a globally acclaimed CX expert. He's a certified customer experience professional and a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. He has worked for over 20 years in different organizations, and in 2012 he was able to move to be an independent consultant, and he has been able to travel to over, I think, 65, I think, Kian, you can confirm, countries worldwide. Last week he was in Uganda, and I can see there's someone from Uganda here and can attest to his amazing speech that he had there. He has published over 600 articles on the subject of customer experience, and he was one of the first, he was part of the board of customer experience, CXPA, and he's also one of the trainers that was first authorized to carry out the certification and accreditation of CCXP. And he has published a book called Customer What. I'm sure you can see it in his background there, and he'll be telling us more about it. So it's with great pleasure we welcome you, Ian, to just take us through this topic. Asante sana, karibu.
Thank you for such a lovely introduction, Lynette. It is such a pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon. Thank you from me for taking the time out of your busy schedules to listen to me, as I always say, rambling on today. I'm just going to share my screen so you can see exactly what it is I would like to ramble about. And Lynette, just give me a thumbs up that you can see that okay. Fabulous, good. So as Lynette said, it is always a real pleasure and honour for me to be able to share knowledge in this subject, and it is always a really significant honour for me to do so across the continent of Africa. I've spent quite a lot of time in different parts of Africa, and I have been, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, excuse me, that wasn't part of the script. I have been to Kenya. I've had the pleasure of being to Nairobi a couple of times, although a while ago. So hopefully it won't be too long before I'm back in Kenya in person. As Lynette said, what I would like to share with you are some thoughts from me around the subject of leadership from a customer experience perspective and how leadership should be thinking about dealing with ever increasing complexity. I'll touch on both of those things and how they connect together as I go through this information. Now, I do encourage you to ask questions. If you have them, ask them. Lynette will moderate those questions once I've finished speaking to you all. But as I'm going through what I'm saying, do use the chat to either ask a question or comment on what I'm saying. And when you want to comment, you don't have to agree with me. I always say to everyone, a lot of what I say is my opinion. However, what I'm going to share with you is based on my very unusual perspective of customer experience. Unusual because I have worked in 63 countries, Lynette, almost 65, 63 countries on every continent on Earth. So I'm in a very good position to be able to share my perspective with you. So to kick us off, what I would like to do is to just explain to you the evolution of customer experience as a discipline, because it's important to remind ourselves, where has this all come from in the first place? Well, interestingly, customer experience as we know it today actually started to take shape 30 to 35 years ago in the very early days of direct marketing. Now, this is slightly ironic because customer experience has always existed. From the day an organization was created, it was delivering an experience. But it was only 30 to 35 years ago that it started to take shape. We evolved from direct marketing into CRM until eventually, in April 2011, customer experience being recognized as a discipline in its own right for the very first time. Now, why am I so specific about April 2011? Well, that marks the formation of the world's first professional association in customer experience, the CXPA. Prior to April 2011, the acronym CX didn't exist. And we have to remind ourselves of this. It's very, very recent that customer experience has become a thing. And when the professional association was created, it always had the intention of defining the standards by which the profession should operate. And so in April 2014, the world's first professional qualification in customer experience came along, the CCXP accreditation, Certified Customer Experience Professional. That qualification is 11 years old, which in relative terms means it's still very new. And as I speak to you today, in August 2025, there are currently approximately 1,700 CCXPs globally. Now, that is a dramatic pause because 1,700 people globally with the only professional qualification in customer experience is not even scratching the surface. I would argue we are still nowhere near the surface. And this is one of the reasons why the fact this is a discipline is brilliant, but there is still a lot of confusion about it. But we continue to evolve. And around 2018, there was a growing recognition that you can't deliver great customer experiences until or unless you're able to deliver great employee experiences. The most customer centric organizations on earth have always known that, but it is in much more recent times that others have started to take note. As you all know, we live in a digitally obsessed world. And whilst digital technology is going to play an increasingly important role in our lives going forward, Digital technology should not be seen as a way of eliminating human interaction. Experiences are all about human to human interaction. Digital technology should not be seen as a way of eliminating that interaction. It should be seen as a way of better enabling that interaction. And as a result, I believe it's important that we think about human experiences, not customer experience alone or employee experience alone, but human experiences. And interestingly, as a result, going forward, you're going to see more and more organizations not talking about CX alone or EX alone, but about experience management. Experience management is a much more all-encompassing term that brings together both customer and employee together. And the word management is important because the objective is not to recognize experiences exist. Our objective is to manage experiences so they ultimately deliver a tangible benefit to the customer, the employee, and the shareholder. So, with that in mind, what have we done successfully over the last 30 to 35 years as an evolving discipline? Well, what we've done very successfully is put customer experience into the minds of leaders around the world. There is no doubt that leaders across all industries in both the public and private sector now know that customer experience is something that they need to be aware of. However, unfortunately, this is a word that I use a lot when I talk about the subject of customer experience. Because whilst it is brilliant that we're all talking about it, are we going forwards as a discipline or are we going backwards as a discipline? It's a very interesting thing to consider when you think that the professional association was created in 2011. In 2025, surely we should be going forwards as a discipline. But interestingly, there is a lot of evidence that suggests that whilst there is greater awareness of customer experience, the adoption of customer experience tools, techniques, and methodologies, the ability of organizations to operationalize customer experience has actually gone backwards. And I want to pose the question, why is that? And to explain to you why, I'm going to share three words with you: arrogance, ignorance, and apathy. This statement that the discipline of customer experience is going backwards is a very bold statement to make. And I must make it clear that that statement is not equal across the globe. Because I have this pleasure of working on every continent on Earth, the three words that you see in this image are actually more relevant to the West of the world. The US, the UK, large parts of Western Europe. In those parts of the world, I have seen with my own eyes evidence of the discipline of customer experience going backwards. The US likes to think that it is the first to think of all of these things. And whilst arguably customer experience developed in the US before it did anywhere else, unfortunately, the ability to turn customer experience into something tangible has not happened consistently well. There is too much evidence of organizations thinking that we do all of this already. We've got nothing else to do. There's no more to learn. We've got an NPS score. We're fine. And that leads, unfortunately, to ignorance. There is not enough tangible evidence of organizations recognizing that customer experience is not something that is finite. It is something that needs to continuously evolve. And that means we have to continuously learn and develop. And in many cases, that's not happening. And I don't just want to pick on the US here. I'm from the UK. I see a lot of ignorance in the UK. Organizations thinking, yeah, we've got a brilliant approach to customer experience. But if you ask customers what's different about the experience, well, nothing really. Are we really going forwards? But we are also struggling from that word apathy. Like any initiative, any new fad, so to speak, we get to a point where people become apathetic. Leaders have heard us talking about customer experience for a long time now. But how many organizations still don't really know how to even determine what the financial impact of customer experience is? And if we're not able to understand the impact, ultimately leaders become apathetic. Yeah, of course, customer experience is important. Right, let's move on to the next thing. And this is a massive issue. And this is why it's so important that we focus on the importance of leadership in all of this and why is this happening. Interestingly, Lynette said in her introduction about me that I've written a lot of articles about this subject. And I wrote an article in 2018 that I called the 7 year itch. Now, the 7 year itch is an expression that people relate to marriage, actually. After 7 years of marriage, that's when people start to get a bit twitchy. Um, you know, 2018 marked 7 years of the professional association, and already I could see evidence of people getting a bit itchy about this. Is this really something that can deliver change, that can have an impact on sustainable growth? So, why are we struggling globally to continue to evolve customer experience? Let me touch on that. Firstly, leadership. Leadership, when it comes to customer experience, is critical. But I would say since the pandemic, I have seen an increasing number of poor examples of leadership. And I believe that customer centric leaders should have three fundamental bones in their body. Okay, now, obviously, you need more bones in your body for your skeleton to hold itself up. But when it comes to customer experience, three bones. The first bone is the wishbone. As a leader, what do you wish for? I see so many leaders where there is a complete lack of clarity as to what it is that they wish for, the direction that they want the organization to go in. And if people don't know what that wish is, they don't know the direction, how are they going to get behind you as a leader? But what I also see is a lot of evidence of a lack of backbone. Customer centric leaders need a very strong backbone. Doing what we do is hard. Customer experience is a long term strategy. It requires us to change the nature of the way people think and act. That is not easy. Being a customer centric leader does not make you popular, but it's not a popularity contest. This is about doing what's right for the organization. And that takes a huge amount of courage, persistence, and sheer bloody mindedness. And that is why having a backbone is so important. But if we're going to succeed in our objective of changing the way organizations think and act, we also need to have a funny bone. Business, life in general, has become so serious. We live in a very complex world. When you factor in global pandemics, economic crises, conflict, physical conflict, we are living in very difficult times. And it's really important that customer-centric leaders allow people to see hope, to see that it isn't just hard. Life is tough, but actually we need to have a little bit of fun along the way. Too often, I'm not seeing these attributes demonstrated by leaders. But there are other reasons why we're going backwards. As the title of this webinar suggests, organizations have made themselves so complicated that what that transpires into is them massively overcomplicating their approach to customer experience. Over the years, I have worked with so many organizations who have been working on customer experience for quite some time. Organizations that have spent a huge amount of money with expensive consultants who created huge PowerPoint presentations, and nothing's happened. Too many are massively overcomplicating customer experience. And as a result, they don't know what to do with all of that complicated information. We have overcomplicated almost everything we do. And what that means is that our people are so mired in complexity, they can't even see what customers see. Over the last 5 years, I've spent a lot of time talking about something I hadn't talked about since the 90s, just to demonstrate how old I am. And in the 90s, organizations used to conduct time and motion studies. Time and motion studies to understand how much work were people doing that added value and how much work were they doing that didn't add value. I spoke to an organization last week who told me that their customer service representatives spent as much as a third of their time doing things that they shouldn't have to do. A third of their time. Too many talk about complexity, but they're not prepared to do anything about it. We need to remove complexity to make experiences more accessible, not just for our customers, but for our colleagues as well. And one of the reasons why complexity doesn't disappear leads to the second point. It leads to the fact that there is a distinct lack of accountability when it comes to customer experience. The lack of accountability is astonishing. When I ask customer experience professionals who are preparing for their professional qualification, which of the CCXP competencies would they score lowest in terms of maturity in their organization, the one that consistently everyone would score lowest is culture and accountability. It is astonishing how little governance is evident in organizations around the world. And as a result, leaders are not committing to this. They are not demonstrating that they know they're accountable, they need to make decisions, they need to make things happen. Customer experience is not about us. We are not accountable for the customer experience. The whole organization is accountable for it. And until the leadership of the organization understand that, it's going to be very difficult to make progress. If we take this to the next level, another reason why the discipline goes backwards is, as I've already alluded to, too many organizations don't understand what I describe as the science of customer experience. Customer experience is a science. It's not rocket science, but it is a science. And if organizations are going to be able to effectively transform themselves to become customer led and as a result drive sustainable growth, they need to know what the science is, what the capabilities are and competencies are that need to be in place to enable that tangible change to happen. One of the greatest examples of this is the concept of customer journey management. I can tell you now the image that you see in this on the left hand side This is the most important concept of all in the discipline that customer experience has become. But most organizations around the world aren't doing it. And this really brings to life why we are not moving forward. Customer journey management is a cycle of continuous interconnected activity that includes knowing who customers are so we can visualize their journey, so we can then measure the journey to identify the small number of priorities having the greatest tangible impact on customer perception and, as a result, financial performance. And when we know what those priorities are, we fix them. It is astonishing how many organizations have mapped their customer journeys once, but never looked at them ever again. It amazes me how many organizations have been measuring the customer experience for years, but they don't actually know what the customer journey looks like. And as a result, what they're measuring isn't representative of the truth. If I prod and poke organizations hard enough, they'll give me a good idea as to what their priorities are. But they never fix them. They procrastinate. They demand more data. No one wants to commit to making a decision. It is only when we can adopt this continuous, interconnected cycle of activity that we reach the nirvana state of customer experience management. It's not happening. And until it happens, organizations will find it increasingly difficult to understand why is there no impact? Well, why can't we determine what the impact of this is? But as well as understanding the science, we also need to understand the importance of organizational alignment. What you're looking at, I describe as the customer experience operating model. And we need leaders to understand that experiences are delivered through these three fundamental layers. The top layer are customer journeys. We know that customer journeys have always existed, but in many organizations, it's only in relatively recent times they've become aware of that fact. There are many that still don't know they have a customer journey. The second layer are business processes, representing the things that you and your colleagues do every day. Organizations have been aware of process for decades. It is not a new concept. The problem is that most organizations created and implemented processes without knowing there was a customer journey. So if you try to underpin the customer journey with everything that your people do every day, you'll come to the realization that those two layers don't align. There'll be people doing things every day that has no impact on the customer at all. And if that's the case, we've got to ask ourselves, why are they even doing it? There'll be processes crossing over each other. There'll be duplication. There'll be gaps where nothing's happening to the customer. And this is not about the capability of people. This is because processes were put in place without knowing there was a customer journey. And it gets even worse when we get to the third layer, the technology layer. Because like process, most organizations bought, designed, and implemented technology without knowing there was a customer journey. So what most organizations have done historically and are continuing to do to this day, they put technology in place, force processes into it, and customers get whatever they get. What we're seeing are organizations being led by people who are making decisions first based on the technology that they want, forcing that technology into the organization. Fundamentally, we can't operate that way. If we are going to deliver tangible, measurable change to enable sustainable growth, we can't start with the technology and work upwards. We've got to start with the journey and work downwards so we can understand what technology we need that will better enable our processes to do what our customers need us to do. We cannot be led by the technology. We've got to be led by the journey. And that leads me to the subject of measurement. Possibly the most significant issue of all right now is that leaders are not acknowledging that the way they're measuring the customer experience is leading them to jump to entirely the wrong conclusion. Most organizations are measuring the customer experience badly. A robust customer experience measurement system should see organizations capturing, acting on, and responding to three voices of measurement: voice of the customer, voice of the employee, and voice of the process. I don't have enough time today to go into the detail behind these, but what I can tell you is that most organizations are only measuring one of these voices: voice of the customer. And as I've just said, most are measuring VOC badly. And as a result, the majority of organizations around the world are unable to understand the fourth voice. Yes, there is a fourth voice of measurement. That fourth voice being what we call voice of the business. Voice of the business represents strategic business metrics. These are the metrics that leaders really care about. These are financial performance, workforce performance. This is what the board of directors really need to know. If we are going to enable the sustained focus on experience management going forward, we have to be able to demonstrate the impact that those three customer-led voices have on the voice of the business. If we can't, we are going to find it very difficult to sustain the focus. So, to bring my rambling to a conclusion, what needs to happen? Well, firstly, every year I'm asked, is customer experience going to go away? Is it going to be replaced by something else? And I can put your minds at rest straight away. Of course it isn't. Customer experience has always existed. It will always exist. What we need is mindset shift. And the best image I found to describe the mindset shifts that we're looking for is this one. We need leaders to stop obsessing with profit and refocus their minds on obsessing with organizational purpose. The better able they are at delivering their purpose, the more money they'll make. We cannot rely on old historical hierarchies. We need to become collaborative. We need to operate in cross-functional collaborative networks. We also need to get rid of legacy command and control leadership styles. Leaders feeling that the only way the organization works is if I tell my people what to do. Customer experience will only work effectively if we create an environment where our people are able to think and act in the interests of the customer. That's what empowerment means. We also need to ensure that people aren't afraid to try new things. Experimentation is vital. Will people get it right all the time? No, but that's the point of experimentation. If we just stick rigidly to the way it's always been done, nothing will change. We've got to give people the ability to try new things. And it is vital that we become transparent. I ask every organization I work with, whenever I've got a group of people in a room, I will ask them, do you know what the business strategy is? It's astonishing. I would say in excess of 90% of the people I speak to do not even know what the strategy of their organization is. And if we don't even know what the strategy is, how do we know if customer experience is a part of it? Too often, strategy is a closely guarded secret of the leadership team. It can't be. If we want everyone to be going in the same direction, we all need to know what that direction is. But it's also vital that we continue to educate. I spend 50% of my time sharing knowledge in this subject because we never stop learning. And as soon as a leader thinks they know everything, we've got a problem. Okay, we don't know everything. And it's vitally important we continue to educate at every level of the organization. We also need to come back to disciplines that are not new. I've already told you that I was working in the 90s. In the 90s, I worked for an organization called GE, General Electric. That was the first time that I was exposed to the concept of change management. Change management is vital. But in 2025, very few organizations around the world even have an approach to managing change. What they're doing is throwing change at people and just expecting it to work. Change doesn't work like that. We need to bring back some disciplines that have been around for decades. And by bringing in rigor and discipline, ensure that the solutions we develop are accepted by the people that they are being given to. That is the only way that change, transformation will be effective. But fundamentally, there are three things that we have got to ensure as leaders. We have got to ensure that we give people time to think. We live in a world that is now more short term in its thinking, more reactive than I've certainly seen in my working lifetime, which is over 31 years. I've never seen anything like it. People are not being given time to think. They just have to get on with it, hit the numbers, hit the number. We've got to give people time to think. It's the only way they can take accountability. But we've also got to listen. Leaders do not spend enough time listening to their people, listening to their customers. They're too busy chasing numbers. Right? We have got to listen. Most organizations have a group of people who are not just capable, they're passionate about the organization. And if we just listen to them, we can learn so much. But ultimately, behind all of this, what we cannot forget is the importance of empathy. Empathy is the most important underlying principle of customer experience. And empathy is a key driver of sustainable growth. And this is why. And this will be my final words before I pass back to Lynette. Empathy builds advocacy. The more you are able to empathize with customers, the more likely it is that your customers will become advocates or fans of your organization. Fans become loyal. Loyal fans come back to you more often, tell others about you, and spend more money. And if that happens, you will grow. If I say it more succinctly, empathy builds advocacy, advocacy leads to loyalty, loyalty delivers growth. And that's what all organizations are desperate to see. We cannot forget that customer experience is a science, but behind that science is a heart. I hope you found what I've shared with you interesting, useful. I am very happy to answer any questions that you have, and I will pass back to Lynette to see if anyone does want to grill me about anything that I've shared. Lynette, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ian. You have both challenged us and inspired us with your presentation today. What a wonderful, wonderful presentation. You've really given us a lot to think about customer experience moving backwards. Truly, when we thought we were making steps forward, but really it's a time to just reflect on some of
Well,
the things you've
one thing
mentioned.
just to add to that, Lynette,
Yeah.
I think it's very important. Where I see customer experience moving forwards is actually in what the Americans would consider to be less developed economies. So,
Mm,
interestingly, the reason I do a lot of work in Africa, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, is because this is where customer experience is advancing much quicker. And I
mm,
think that that's important. You know, the fact that I was in Uganda last week, there is a real determination. And the difference is that what I see in these parts of the world is that people want information. They want to learn. There isn't that arrogance or apathy. And I think
Mhm.
that's what's wonderful to see. That the fastest growth in customer experience management as a discipline is actually at the moment in Saudi Arabia. Just astonishing. But I'm seeing brilliant things happening in Africa, and that's why I really hope that that momentum continues.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. I think that's really encouraging to hear. That Africa is beginning to lead in customer experience, and that our thirst for the knowledge and to want to do better is really moving us forward. But indeed, you've challenged us on a number of things, including the complexity of organizations and the need to change our mindsets. I think that for me is the biggest thing. They need to change the mindsets, not just of ourselves, our teams, but also of leadership. And maybe we can get questions from the audience. I see a lot of us have joined in as we were moving forward. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask on the chat or to raise your hand, and you will be we'll give you an opportunity to ask your question to Ian. I think my one question is how do we bring in other people, because as you said, for customer experience we cannot work alone. We have
Yeah.
to bring other people, and to get all of this buy-in, how do we get that, especially from C-suite, but also from our colleagues, our peers? How do you see that
Um,
happening here?
it's a very good question. I will always reference the need for us to leverage authority. Okay. Um, and anyone that goes through my masterclasses will hear me talk about three types of authority: positional authority, borrowed authority, and earned authority. So the first thing is, unfortunately, many customer experience professionals don't have the position to influence the change that's required. We don't sit at the top table. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do anything. What that means is that we've got to leverage the two other types of authority, starting with the what I described as borrowed authority. Borrowing authority is really important. It is about us identifying people either within the organization or outside the organization whose authority we can leverage that will influence others. Okay. Now, a leader who customer experience professionals don't spend enough time borrowing authority from is actually the CFO. You know, the finance leaders are incredibly influential. If you can convince the person who holds the purse strings, they're very likely to open a lot of doors for you. So you need to be looking for leaders within the organization who you know are supportive, or you know they have the ear of the ultimate decision maker, the CEO, the board of directors, whoever it may be. But borrowing authority is also effective from outside the organization. I spent 7 years as head of group customer experience for an online retailer. I was struggling to get impact. And I just so happened to, at the time, be communicating with Bruce Temkin, who is one of the co founders of the CXPA. And I was telling Bruce about my struggles. And he said, "Let me talk to your boss." And he did it as a favor to me. And he spoke to my boss for an hour. Okay. I was in the room, and Bruce told my boss literally everything that I'd been saying myself over the previous 2 years. At the end of the hour, my boss looked at me and went, "Wow, that was amazing." Now, at the time, I'm like, "Hang on a second." I've said, but it's that point about borrowing authority. Sometimes you need to just borrow it from outside. It just validates what you're doing. But so don't see borrowing authority as a weakness, it's a strength. You've just got to know where to get it from.
Wow, that's amazing. I think when you mentioned the CFO, I was really packed up, because one of the things that we noticed when we did the customer experience maturity report, and one of the things is that we are not aware of our budgets, and we are not aware of what percentage of the entire budget is customer experience, and that's what came through from the report. And
Yes,
so it's really important that we really collaborate with the CFO, so that we are also speaking in their language. And we do have a podcast, if you haven't
yes,
watched it, it's on our YouTube, just on how to speak the language of the CFO, which is really important. I can see there's a question here by, there are two questions actually. There's one by CHRP Ruth Seren. She's saying, thank you, Ian, for sharing your CX wisdom. For a CX leader facing persistent executive lip service, but no real commitment, especially on budget, what piece of actionable advice would you give them to be able to shift the needle?
it's
And
a great.
then, Dr. Lucy, let me just ask both questions so that you can tackle them. Dr. Lucy is asking, tell us a little more about Saudi. What is behind the
Yes,
mega CX movement, and is there a real change in experience management? Over to
yes.
you, Ian.
Both great questions. So I'll come to Ruth first. Um, and interestingly, Lynette, obviously in Uganda, I had the pleasure of listening to Carolyn, who was talking about the outcome of the report. So it is definitely worth getting under the skin of all of that. Um, the best way to respond to you, Ruth, is firstly, and I said this in Uganda last week, it is really important that we focus in trying to change mindset on facts. Too often, customer experience professionals are being led by emotion, being led by their passion. And I'm not saying that you should lose the passion, but if you're going to convince a leadership team, they don't need to see that you believe in this, because it's sort of that they know you believe in it. They need facts. And the best way to have a conversation around budget is to help the organization understand how much is customer experience costing us. Now, what I mean is, how much is delivering bad experiences costing the organization? Right now, the likelihood is everyone listening to this, your organizations are throwing huge amounts of money down the drain. Every time a customer contacts you when they shouldn't have to contact you, every time something goes wrong, it costs money to put it right. And not enough leaders know what the cost of failure is, the cost of failing to deliver consistent experiences. And if we want to have a conversation about investing in CX, we need them to understand that actually this is not about spending lots of money. This is about us ultimately avoiding spending huge amounts of unnecessary money. So my suggestion, Ruth, is focus on the cost of failure in the short term. Leaders think that customer experience is about revenue generation. Ultimately, it is in the long term. In the short term, it's about cost avoidance and cost reduction, eliminating things going wrong in the customer journey. That's you start telling them how much money potentially could be saved, that will get their ears, very, very open. Coming to Lucy's question, very good question. The Middle East, and when I say the Middle East, typically Saudi and the UAE, the significant difference is that customer experience is being led by the public sector, not by the private sector. It is all about government. Saudi have identified that customer experience is a differentiator for the whole country. It's really quite interesting. That is a country that it has grown on oil, basically, but its sustainable future will not be oil. Its sustainable future will be growing the economy across lots of other things that they need people to come to Saudi. This is one of the reasons why culturally they're having to become more relaxed, to encourage other people to come there. They have a long way to go. But in countries like that, when the government says this is a priority, people then do it. And they are focusing so much on applying the tools, techniques, and methodologies. There are some amazing case studies coming out. So, if you are working in the public sector in Kenya or anywhere in East Africa, trying to find people working in that part of the world in similar parts of government might be useful for you to use as a benchmark. And if you want me to connect you to people, I'm very happy to do so.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ian, for your response. I think that's very encouraging to public sector colleagues. We have a number of them here, and to see that we can lead from the front as well and transform an entire nation just by focusing on customer experience. And also thank you for the response on budgets and focusing on the cost of bad customer experience. I think that's really important to be able to show what the cost is of failure, and then people, the leaders, will be able to pack up and begin to listen to us. So thank you. I hope I'm not closing out any other questions. I can see Dr. Lucy saying thanks, Ian. Great insights on Saudi. I think would love to be connected with people there so that we can also learn from them. So I'll reach out to you about that as well. So thank you so much, Ian. We really do appreciate you taking your time. A huge thank you to you for just taking your time to put together the presentation. I hope you can share it with us, and we can share it with the participants today so that they can go a little deeper on the insights that you've shared, and that they can also be able to reach out to you. I saw that you shared your contacts on the presentation as well. So asante sana. We hope that you'll come here. You're a deep well that we've not been able to explore. So we hope that you'll come to Kenya. And also, I think we're talking about you not having experienced the expressway. So hopefully you'll be able to experience that as well. Asante. So before you leave, everyone, we'd like to make a few announcements on our upcoming events. First upcoming event is our CEO Breakfast Forum. And as you can see, we have wonderful speakers lined up. One of our keynote speaker will be Sunny Bindra, and he's released a book recently on the X in CX. And we'll be giving out a copy to all the attendees. So if you can come and get a signed copy, please sign up for this wonderful CEO Breakfast Forum and be able to meet Sunny Bindra and the rest of the panelists who are great and wonderful, and they'll be sharing their insights on leadership at the CX level, CX in the C-suite, and being able to see how do we champion transformation from there. So if you haven't signed up, please do so. You can see the details on the flyer here, and you can also find it on all our social media platforms, which is ICX Kenya. We do also have another upcoming event, which is our CX Masterclass. I saw Ian mentioning measurement of CX, VOC, VOE, VOP. If you want to dig deeper into this, our customer experience masterclass is one that will help you to be able to see how to best measure customer experience, whether you're starting out as a young professional or all the way to just leading teams and working in the C-suite as well. This is a course for you. We had you and you said you wanted 3 days, and so so we were able to expand it to 3 days. Actually, Stefan is the one who introduced us to Ian Golding, and so it's great to see networks just moving and expanding just because of this masterclass. So if you want to be part of the cohort 2, please do sign up. It's going to be 3 days at the Pullman Hotel, and the registration link has for the CEO breakfast has been put there. But if you also want to be part of the masterclass, kindly do reach out to us, and we will be able to include you. It's in September. You can sign up or bring your teams as well. And lastly, we have our AGM coming up as well on the 19th of September. Please, as you know, we are a membership organization. We love to have you there to see how we are doing as an organization, how we've been able to perform over the last year, and we'll also be having some of our board members retiring, and so to be part of that, please look out for our notice, which will be sent out in the coming days. If you're not a member of ICX, we cannot have that conversation on the AGM, yeah? So please ensure that you're part of the membership. Reach out to us and sign up to be a member of ICX. There's so many great things lined up for you as a member, and also just to put in your voice into the association and how best we grow and develop ourselves. As you can see, we're doing well as Africa, as Ian said, in terms of customer experience. And so we'll probably be moving around and giving our experiences to other countries. So you really do want to be part of an association that is doing this and being part of the voice. So we really do appreciate all of you for coming in today and being part of this webinar. Thank you so much, Ian. We cannot thank you enough for sparing the time to prepare and also to just come in and give your insights. We really do appreciate you. And you can reach out. Thank you so much to the audience as well. We appreciate you taking your time as well to be part of this. And just being such a wonderful audience, even asking questions and staying all the while. So we really appreciate you. If you are not a member, we've shared a link for you to be able to join and be part of this wonderful body as we grow. So we thank you again, everyone. Please reach out to us with any feedback that you have on the session, and we'll be happy to bring you more of this. Asanteni, have a wonderful afternoon.